Greetings, and on our watercolor class today, we're going to be painting leaves. This is the middle of October is kind of when the fall colors are beautiful, not necessarily in Florida, but those of us who have lived in other places know that the leaves are a great little subject matter, especially for designing a watercolor. So I'm going to cover things like balance and positive and negative space today and composing, but also just having fun with some colors that leaves turn, which are mostly warm colors. We're typically used to seeing them green. The handouts that you're going to have are the leaf patterns. And my suggestion is going to be that you simply print this on your 8.5 by 11 and cut out these shapes. You know what though? I know that you can get some leaves. I plucked a leaf, by the way. I was on a walk, and what's left of that leaf, oddly, is this little stem, because guess what the leaf did? It dried up and blew away. It was a maple, a Florida maple. So I know they have them here. I know that you can also, if you are in a northern state, you can pluck your own leaves and use them to trace or to be inspired by. You don't have to trace. What I've done by making this little handout, I have cut out the shapes that I'm going to use as patterns. And that just allows me to have these different sizes and different shapes as well, because there are, I had some photographs, and Jim and I were debating about what kind of leaves these are. I don't know. I should know all my leaves, but I'm not sure that I do. The names, oak leaves are really complicated. Poplar leaves are more rounded and pointed, but whatever leaf inspires you can be a combination of all three or whatever. All not just three, but a bunch of leaves. You can use different arrangements. So this is the second handout, and it's just to inspire you to think about, do you want a symmetrical design that is divided in the middle and is the same on both sides? Now, these are more interesting designs simply because these are called asymmetrical designs. And in these designs, I've used either 3, 5, or more than 5. This is 3, of course, of the same leaf. And the things I want us to keep in mind are that we are going to think of balance. Balance of the composition, balance of the positive and negative spaces, balance of the colors and values in the painting, as well as the symmetry, either asymmetrical or symmetrical. And actually, this could be a very interesting little painting. So the choice is yours. I'm going to show you how to paint leaves now. And I have already drawn, so let me divert you over to my piece of paper where I have sketched 3 leaves based on this very simple asymmetrical composition. And the other thing I would like to do prior, here's my other little round shaped leaf. And I today, while I was working on the leaf patterns, pattern is another word that really is dominant when you're thinking about painting leaves, because the leaf pattern is pretty interesting. You have the vein, the main vein that goes through the middle part of the leaf, and then you have these secondary veins that alternate in the way they are arranged. I want to draw, before I paint, one leaf just to show you a quick way of doing the drawing without tracing if you have your reference, and you can pull up anything on the internet. So I'm going to look at this leaf and start with the vein, the main vein, which really becomes the stem. And I leave a single line. I've discovered that if I make it a double line, I tend to paint it too thick. And then I can begin here. To make anything symmetrical, you just simply need to window. It's sort of like whatever you draw over here, think of it as mirroring what you do. So so that this side is the same as that side. So when I do this curve shape to that curve shape, I am making, in other words, it will be a symmetrical leaf. So leaves are symmetrical when you divide them in half. So it's a good thing to use as our design principle today. All right, so again, I am just trying to replicate from one side to the next. And I think it's more fun to draw it freehand. But let's say you want to play with the patterns on the page. And I will show you why it's nice to, now from this point, and then I'll get back to my thought, I draw all the main veins coming from that one point, okay? And by the way, I made this side too big over that side. I needed to erase and make this side, or I actually like that side better, so I can erase and make this side match that side. Yeah, I think you get the picture. And so from here, you can make your secondary veins moving toward the point, and often they go to a point. That's what they tend to do. All right, so realistically, that's your sketch of a leaf. Okay, my point. Oh my, now see, if I go too far, I kind of forget where I was going. Maybe I'll come back to it in my wanderings and remember to tell you. So let's see. We did symmetry, we drew one leaf. Oh, I do remember now. Okay, here's the way this works. If you are going to have a painting that you want to show a design of leaves, let me just set it back here. So this is almost that, but let's say I want to put a design of 3 leaves. I can lay the cutouts on top of the piece of paper and move the shapes around, which helps me design the page. And instead of having to draw, erase, you can shift your pieces. And I think that's a great way of designing. Okay, so we're going to paint leaves. And I'm using this as my reference. And I'll also send you a few photographs of leaves, but I think you can find your own. Oh, another thought I had this morning was I recently was in a Michael's, of course, with my mask on, and I observed that these fall leaves can be bought as silk leaves, and sometimes they're pretty darn realistic now. They don't look like plastic, and they can be purchased and traced. Also, sometimes leaves curl or bend, and this is kind of looking at a flat design, and I simply drew this morning based on this. So let's paint. I like to begin with the water, and I'm just going to paint part of this just to give you an idea how to do it. I'll paint one, and then I'll move to the other, and while it's drying, I can come back. And I guess I could have saved a little time by using a bigger, flatter brush and just applying the water throughout. You can do this dry. You don't have to do it wet, but I think the flow is kind of interesting. And we can layer, although sometimes the effect of what we get in the first wash is pretty darn effective. It means that what we're painting here is where the leaves change color. And in this case, we're going to move from yellow to red. And so what we're going to get in the middle is some orange. And I'm just adding a little water out here on the on the edge here of this particular leaf. And I'm going to switch straight over to my alizarin red. I could use my more cad red. Actually, I think more cad red is a better choice. And because it has a little orange already in it, a little yellow rather, and I want my leaves to be fairly precise. So I'm taking this little round brush and following my pencil lines pretty accurately. And I want to do my strokes in the direction of the vein because I will have a sense of those veins, even though at the end I'm going to come back and make some lines on top of this leaf. And now last week we were looking at flowers. I see painting flowers and leaves and things from nature as having an awareness of what grows around us. They are the small components of a larger landscape, like a garden. And just having these simple pieces to look at make the pleasure of drawing them and painting them very special. So I was thinking of some other subjects too to do during this fall season, apples and I can't help but think about butterflies, but they're all seasonal. And so those are some of the subjects we'll play with in composing them. I'm moving this red or orange is turning orange because I'm now applying it lightly into the yellow that I have. And I'm allowing it to kind of fade. I just added some water because I want to soften this up right through here. And I kind of like that leaf, but I want to make a bit of a lightness. So I'm going to touch it with my paper towel to lighten a few spots. And this is pretty heavy up here, but it seems to work. All right. So on to the next, so I can let that one dry and I'll show you some vein work. So one leaf is done. Now I'm probably going to let the background remain white, but there's no reason why we can't play around with the background as well. I kind of see this exercise as you're trying more than one design with leaves. You might end up with, how about 6 or 7, or maybe even 2. Maybe try a symmetrical design and an asymmetrical design. Now, I decided instead of wetting my leaf like I did here, I would show you how to just work with direct painting. And what I'm doing is referencing what I have in this photograph right here. Let's see, I'll use it in this little corner and you can kind of see where I am. And this still hasn't changed completely from the green. So as I apply the color, and it's wet, but it's going to dry on me pretty quick, I'm going to add a little water and blend it down where I want to start mingling my more red and more green. And this looks like it has a little burnt sienna in it as well. So I see these as kind of fun paintings. It should happen pretty quick for you and not be too labor intensive. I think I spent, a good 15 minutes just drawing, 15 or 20 minutes just drawing. So I think that's the first step, is composing your design before you, this is way fun. So I have just gone ahead with, I might put some more yellow down here, but right now I want to introduce where I see the reds. Whoops, that's a little heavy. I don't know. It doesn't have to be exactly like my photograph. This is definitely heavier than what's in the picture. However, as it runs and I have control, so I think what's going on makes it look like a leaf. And so I don't mind leaving it there. Jim and I last October the 15th, we heard that was going to be peak for fall leaves. And what we did is we flew up on Allegiant to Asheville and rented a car and drove up to Maryland. That's right. Jim, what was the name of that parkway? Do you remember? It wasn't the Blue Ridge. We went into a different parkway. Anyway, that was a lovely drive, but the funny thing is it rained the whole time and was so foggy that we could hardly see a thing, could we, Jim? We had to hunt for those leaves, but we did see some beautiful trees. All right, so the advantage I have with using the technique that I'm doing right now is that I could be a little more dry brush with these spots that you see. And not that I can't come back and do some on this one, but now I want to switch back to my yellow for these areas where my green is going to be. Boy, this is just a fun thing to do. It's I'm gonna mingle, but already I must have picked up some dirty yellow because already got a nice green going on. So I am sticking, I just stuck my brush over here into my skip screen, and I am, you know, the skip screen is already a yellow green. So the yellow green is right there. Okay. The yellow green seems to be just what I need for that. And as it mingles in red, red and green are opposite, so they're going to make kind of a brown color or dull. And they're separated by these veins. So I'm kind of following where the veins are and leaving a little bit there. And remember, I was trying to follow the strokes that would replicate these veins. And I already like the way this leaf is turning out. Okay, and I was worried about that being bright, and now it's not bright at all, and I need to get brighter right here. It seems to me that I'm going to keep my reds going through the center and really pop some red down here on this one. Well, it's going so quickly, I might as well paint this one too. So let me see, if I'm done with this, I'm not quite, I tell you what, I may let that dry, because what I'm tempted to do is a little dry brush, and obviously I can't put dry brush on top of a wet. So that's still wet. Let's move down to this last leaf, and then I'll go back and touch up a little bit. I won't quite finish, but you'll get the point. So this one does have a lot of yellow, again, to start with. And I am focusing, I'm going to do the same technique I used up here. I think maybe I'm favoring the dry wash over the wet in wet, although you can see that it works either way. And I think this is a exercise that turns into a pretty fun painting. It's learning at the same time that you have fun and you paint something that people love to see. It's kind of like doing seashells. Who doesn't like seashells? Who doesn't like beautiful fall leaves? God's creation. My son was pointing out that the human body has veins. What were they called, James? The veins, like in human form, they're in our bodies as nature. It's pretty incredible. I don't think he could hear me to ask that question.
Arterial veins, I think.
Arterial veins. Okay. Well, he studied medicine, so he understands that the body is full of pattern, much like what we have going on in nature. All right, so I've spotted where the yellows are, but now I have a lot more orange going on and red. This one's going to be pretty bold. And because it's at the bottom of the page, it should carry the most weight. It's kind of like I say, your darker values should, most of the time, it helps the feeling of the painting, because it's like having a base on a piece of sculpture. You need some darks, or you need the larger shapes at the bottom. I used to design stained glass windows, and we had to keep in mind how that visually worked as an overall design, because that was nothing but shapes and patterns for sure. I've left out some of my veins here, so I'm trying to flop some in where I didn't draw some. And you get, this is negatively leaving the light veins. However, I'm going to go back up here and apply the veins. Let me not get sidetracked. I want to change the red in this particular, I'm putting a little bit of rose madder in with my cad red, just to have a sweeter color. Now, I have seen purples. I have seen pinks. There are lots of colors that leaves can be. They start with green or pale yellow, pale green yellow. They also can get pretty rusty and brown. So Keep in mind that you don't have to stick with your warm colors. Obviously with green, that's not a warm color. There's not much red over here on this side. While that's, I don't want that shape to be flat, so I'm just going to put some water on it and let that run and keep it soft. This is going to continue with the red, the two reds I put together. And I do like that combination of that red. Rose madder has a feeling of violet. It's not violet, but it has. So I'm getting a little too heavy, and I'm going to have to add some water to this to soften it up. Okay, that's what I'm going to do next, is just soften this up. Put a little more water and kind of fuzzy that edge. And I've still kept some of those veins. I'm dragging that red into this yellow. And I want to soften that up. That was a little harsh. Even though it had dried right there, I scrub a little bit with a brush and it softens it up. Those little white specks appeal to me greatly. I don't want that big one there, but I did soften that. Now this area's got to go green. So I might as well just use this brush since it's fairly clean. And I'm using that same Skip's green. I guess you could take a Viridian and just add water to it. Oh, and some yellow, because Skip's green is a yellow green. Any yellow green that you have will be fine. And you can make your color. You sort of have to eyeball it. And when you mix it on the palette, look and see if that suits you. Usually it works out on the paper. A lot of people have the habit of having a little scrap piece of paper next to you while you're painting, and that way you can see if the color looks right. All right, I decided to dab this a little bit, and I'm liking the effect. It's almost like putting on the dry brush. Now, I don't want, I'm going to stick a little bit darker. I wanted a little hit of darker green. And I don't want to regret that green, but by golly, it needed a little bit more. And already, even without the dry brush, I've been able to put that in. Now, this is, I did stick some more of the Skip's green. Now, I'm going to try the dry brush. Let's see here. Dry brush is simply applied with less water or no water. It just has to have a little water to come off the brush. And it's a little bit bold. I think right there, I have to soften that for sure. Do a little dry brush. And where it feels a little heavy, just dry brush. You know what I've just done is I have taken some of the paint off, and then I use the paper towel and just dab that paper towel. So there. It's a lighter green, and I like that better. And I get a nice texture out of that. This is also great for splatter. You could do a little splattering. The problem is with me, I get out of control when I splatter. Let's see, if I hold it really close to the paper, I might can get a little bit of splattering without getting all over the rest of my paper. Obviously, if you want to really protect your paper from getting those splatters, which obviously I didn't right there. Okay, I got rid of it before it got too far. You can tear pieces of paper and kind of protect areas, lay it down, and then splatter. Okay, so leaves are great for splatter. Now, to finish this up, I have the stem to do. I'm going to get my, this is number 6. I thought I had another 4 here. Number 4 is the smallest brush to give yourself a good point is what I need. And I need a strong red. I need a very strong red. So I'm using the cat again. It may have just a little mixture of the rose madder, and I just drag this all the way to the point. Oops. I think that was a minor vein that I was doing. So I was off with that one. What do? I don't like it. So yes, I need to get rid of it. I don't know if that was a stray pencil. Oh, I see. It was actually a line for a secondary line for that one. So I will let that area dry. I need a touch more water on my point. And you just continue out. I'm following my pencil line, so I'm not sure you can see them. And this one was supposed to be like that. Okay. There's another little stray mark. And actually, they could be there, but it was too dominant and I didn't like it. And if I don't like it, somebody else might not like it either. All right, so to finish this leaf, I am just painting the stem. Now the stem can be brown. Oh, speaking of which, I have a burnt sienna that I wanted to apply in a couple of places. Let's finish with a burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is a beautiful brown, especially if it's mixed with a little bit of red. And I could put a dot of blue to really shadow that up. I can even trail a little bit of that darker blue brown on this edge to give it a feeling of shadow. There was a hint of something going on here that I wanted to emphasize with the burnt sienna. And so sometimes a little touch here and there makes that leaf a little more powerful. All right, I don't think I'll take the time right now to draw all the rest of the veins in this little painting, but I'll finish it up and take a photo for you. So here's my leaf painting today. Just having fun with doing the leaf patterns in an arrangement. And basically, if I cut off right here, I have touched the side, the top, the side, and here the bottom. I've also created a sense of flow between the positive and negatives by touching almost here and touching almost there. So there's almost a circular dance. You don't want all your leaves facing the same direction. So play around with the composition and what you think works. And you're just going to have fun with painting leaves today. So thank you.